whenever I'm out, I'm always in campaign mode. So I wanted to take this opportunity to tell you a little about myself, and just so you can understand better about the passion that I have for the children in Marshall County and their growth and their futures.
That's very good. And I'm just looking at your sheet here that I'm going over some of your information. One thing that kind of stands out to me, you have on your platform, creating a culture of high expectations. That's awesome. And I think if you will, find it, because a lot of time I ask my clients about that culture. The word culture is so often misunderstood. If you can articulate that point on that culture.
Creating a culture of high expectation is just like creating a way of life. I want students to understand that they are expected to be great. They have it within them, and it is our job as educators to prepare them for that. So we don't expect failure. We expect success. We expect growth. We expect learning. We expect college educations. We expect professionality, and that's what I want to bring to the community.
That's very good, and we definitely need it. And your work experience seems to stand for itself also. I see you taught in Memphis City Schools. Let me make sure this what I'm reading is correct. You was an administrator.
Correct.
And you have performed as a teacher.
Correct.
And a coach.
That's correct.
And then the Tunica school system, you taught also there and coached.
Right. And I wanted to kind of expound on that. I had an article placed in the South Reporter and Pigeon Roof this week, but unfortunately the font was so small, a lot of people couldn't read it. So I'm happy that you asked me that. I just want people to know that I did hold these positions, but not only did I hold these positions, I made gains and growth in every area. As a teacher, in the state-mandated test, I had 100% proficiency, 80% advanced. These are nationally recognized scores. I make things happen at every level. As a coach, I was a state championship coach, American League champion 6 consecutive years, Coach of the Year, MIAA Coach of the Year. These are just things that I've done as an administrator. I put together academic intervention programs for teachers as far as professional development, and we were able to move our students' test scores 20% in 1 year. That also received national recognition. As an administrator, I assisted teachers. Actually, I put together professional development to help teachers pass the practice exam. So we see so many teachers that can't get their license because they can't pass the test, but I figured out a way to do that, and I can assist teachers with that as well. So not only am I here for the students, but I'm also here for the teachers and the community.
You know, I was just looking at that while you're speaking about your coaching experience. I always tell people from a spiritual perspective, coaching and teachers is a high ministry, and I think sometimes we don't express that to other people. And I want to ask you, if you will, can you show the correlation between the ministry of a community and the education department that you are seeking to charge?
Can you kind of expound? Can you elaborate on that?
You was a coach, and that's awesome. That's a ministry.
Right.
And so you touch the kids' hands. You touch them on the front row. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to.
Absolutely.
This is not scripted like you said. We want to be, and this is real because that's a ministry. And I look at the teaching as a ministry. If we blame the parents, I hear it a lot of times, the conversation in the community is parent. But you a teacher, you know that your responsibility starts on that threshold, doesn't it?
That's absolutely true. And as a teacher and coach, I did get a firsthand opportunity to deal with children and parents, and I had an opportunity to deal with situations where the parents weren't as involved as I would like to have been, for them to have been. But the one thing that I've always found, and to be successful, is I have to make the children believe in themselves. Right. That's where I start. If you can show a child that they are special and that they can achieve, and then give them the tools to do it, to make those accomplishments, there's nothing that they can't accomplish. And I've seen this at every level. I've seen children who didn't even have any parents in the home, and I had to step in as a surrogate parent, and I just helped them grow and give them the opportunity and prepare them with the things they need to grow, and they just fly. And that's what I want to bring to the community. I don't want children to accept the way things are just because it's always been that way. Right. I want them to understand that greatness lives within them, and All they have to do is just use their inner strength and use what we give them and prepare them and go out into the world and hopefully bring some of that back to the community.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought you were speaking in when we had a little mix. It's a ministry. We complain about our children, we complain about our communities, but if we don't minister, we don't serve them. And I think when you was talking before to show how difficult it is to run a campaign, a lot of times when people don't understand that they're in a situation, and you know that they are in that situation, that's a burden. I think Bob Marley once said, it's sad that God have opened my eyes and left theirs closed, and you have the vision. How do you express that vision? And maybe talk about some of the frustration, if you have had any, to express your vision.
Well, okay, since we started talking about the athletics part of it, let me go back to that for a minute. Marshall County school system, or Marshall County as a community, has seen so many superstar athletes. I mean, superstar athletes that could have gone from high school to professionals. During their times in the Marshall County school system, they were always eligible to compete. We always packed the gyms. We always went down to Jackson and packed those stadiums. But when it's time for them to go to the next level, we don't hear anything else from them because they have not been prepared to go to that next level. And that's what I want. We want to champion our children in education just like we do with our athletics. They feel special when they're on that court or on that field. That's the way we want them to feel in the classroom with their getting their work and passing those tests because it's in them.
Yeah, and, we talked about, me and a friend were talking about the same thing this morning. It's about motivation. And that's what you also, I think you said that you would bring. Coaches have to motivate, have to go into a situation. But we was talking to one of the coaches that's up in Bahia, a friend of mine, and he was talking about how when we was younger, we seemed to sometimes self-motivate. And he was pointing out that that's a point that sometimes we overlook. We used to have a lot more self-motivating children.
That's right.
But we don't have that anymore. Now, I'm not asking you, to really articulate too deep onto that point, but we know motivation is important. How do you also motivate the teachers when you begin to take over this position?
Well, just like the students, I would have to give them, and I would have to, show them, give them my expectations, but also equip them with what they need and celebrate their strengths. Mm-hmm. Let them lead professional development because some people have strengths in one area and some have weaknesses in the other areas. So if we could, hone in on each other's strengths and grow together, we could see some results.
Those test scores that you quoted, like I say, those test scores that you talked about earlier, 20% in 1 year. That's amazing, isn't it?
Well,
should have got national recognition.
Right, we won a national Epic Award for that, and it was in English, and that's my strength. And as a teacher, I was able to move children. From one level to the next, and they recognized my strength and what I'm talking about using here in Marshall County. When I went into administration, they knew that was my strength, so they let me take on that whole language arts department where we're struggling in Marshall County. I've already done it. I already know what to do to help get these scores up. We're looking at 39% of our third graders and 34% of our 10th graders reading and writing at an above grade level when I produced 98% in that area. All I want is an opportunity to show Marshall County what putting children first can really bring about. I just ask the voters and the community to just give me that opportunity.
Well, you kind of intimidated me then when you said you're an English major. That's your strength. That's probably one of my weaknesses. So now I feel like I'm a student, and I don't know what to say from this point on. But, Ms. Steward, I know the campaign trail is getting to the point of an end. Is there anything in particular, you just got to get out there. You want someone to understand, because I think in politics you still need a degree of intimacy with the community, don't you?
Absolutely. And, I'm not going to necessarily say it's been criticized, but it's been brought to my attention that when I'm out speaking, sometimes it sounds like that I'm fussing. It's not that I'm fussing. It's just I'm so passionate. This is not a game to me. I'm so passionate about our children succeeding that I want people to feel what I'm saying. I want people to understand. I'm not going to try to talk over your head. That was one of my strengths as a teacher. I was able to put it on everybody's level so that they could understand it. And that's what I want people to understand about me. You know, a lot of times we run up, and as an athlete, when you run up against an opponent that you know is a formidable opponent, you try to figure out things to do to get where they are.
Right.
I never take the approach, the negative approach. I work on my weaknesses so that I can bring them up. I don't try to pull out the weaknesses that they have, and that's what I'm seeing a lot on this campaign trail. You know, there is so much negativity and so much things that don't have anything to do with educating children, and that's what I try to stay away from. If you follow me throughout this campaign, if you've read any literature that I've put out, I'm always talking about the children, the status of this district, and what I can do to help. And that's what I'm about. I want the people to understand that we can do better, and I can help them. I can help them with their support. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to go and teach every class and I'm going to write every grant. That's not what I'm saying, but I can put them on the right path, and we can do this together.
Well, like you say, based upon your qualification on your brochures and your cards here, you are exactly, like I said, you're overqualified probably. I'm just joking, but you have a lot of qualifications. I noticed in your education, you're not just only talking about education, you have received a great deal of education. And like I say here, for a person that's unlearned formally, you know, though I see your accolade. One other thing, though, you know, you're from Bahia.
That's correct.
Born and raised?
Born and raised.
Your family?
Born and raised.
And the names are?
Liggins.
And your mom's maiden name? Or?
My mother's maiden name is Richmond.
Richmond. The same Richmond family that right down the road on Hernando?
Absolutely.
So you know, how long have you stayed in Holly Springs, or Marshall County most of your life, or did you leave for a while?
I left Marshall County when I went to college, and after I finished school, I moved to Tunica. That's where I started teaching, and then I got a job offer to go to Memphis. I went there, and I lived in South Haven, Mississippi, and then I moved to Olive Branch, and that's where I was living before I moved back to Bahia, Mississippi.
Right, you kind of have a past as far as travel as mine, but when you come back home, like you said, you come back home, you have so much expectation, so much you want to do, because this is your home. That's why.
Right, and I never really left the community.
Right.
My church is St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church in Bahia, Mississippi. My husband's a youth minister there. My children, my daughter's an usher. You know, they're in the choir. I'm on the academic. I created and implemented an academic incentive program there. And, you know, and that has actually helped the school system a lot, because those children are really excelling in that program. We set the bar really, really high, where you can only get certain things for A's and B's, and they just been knocking it out the box. But, you know, I've never left Bahia. My home was another place, but I've always been in Marshall County. But I want to come back. I want to raise my kids with the same values and the challenges that I want them to see, you know. Nothing, like you said, I have a lot of education and a lot of work experience, but none of that came easy for me.
Right.
And I want my children to understand the value of hard work, and that hard work does pay off. And I want them to come back to their community and give back. Right. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Because we do suffer extreme brain drain. Like you said, you experienced it. And the sad thing that I've learned in the last few years, in particular with the economy the way it is, no longer will have the luxury of sending our children to Aurora and Chicago and Cleveland, because there is no employment there either. The exodus has ended. And so if we don't educate our children, we'll be stuck with the product that we produce, right?
That's right.
And so, you know, I'm with you on that for your heart is in the community, because I came back after about 18 years away, and my heart never left Holly Springs. And to come back and to see that, and I'm quite sure we may be echoing the same spirit, that the fruits are ready to be picked.
That's right.
But we need the opportunity, and that's what I think you're asking the community to do today, is give you an opportunity.
Just give me the opportunity. You know, a lot of times we get complacent with things being the way that they are. We tend to believe that this is the way it should be, or this is acceptable. This is not acceptable.
That's right.
And our children need to be exposed to high performance. They need to be exposed to things that will carry them over into their next life. And, you know, I want to be waiting for them with open arms for them to come back and give back to the community. But if we don't secure our futures, and I mean educate our children, if we don't, this community will perish.
That's right. I agree with that. And you know, a friend that just passed, Chief Pierce, he had just mentioned words of that nature in the men breakfast. I think you may have been there, may have not been, but he mentioned words of the fact that Holly Spring had to begin to go first class. We have to set the culture.
And that's what, you know, that's the expectation. And the children, you know, once they understand that mindset, they're not going to accept less than the best.
Right. Exactly.
And that's what I mean, I've instilled that. That was instilled in me. I've instilled it in my kids. And, you know, and it just pays off. And a lot of children don't have that. I'm not saying that I had to work for a living, you know, chopping cotton. I did it all. And so I understand what hard work is. And I value that. That helps me. So when I do run up against obstacles in life, even things that I fail where I don't do as well as I feel like I should have, I have the inner strength to figure out another way, do it another way. You know, this isn't the end of the world.
Right.
But you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared because life is going to throw all types of challenges at you. And if you haven't been prepared, the education, that base, you don't have anything to fight with. And that's what I want to give our children. I want to give them a fighting chance. And, you know, a lot that I don't want to bring my opponents into it, but since I've been on this campaign trail, my education has been downplayed. My work experience has been downplayed. But like my pastor says all the time, when you know what you know,
that's right.
It's nothing that they can do. You know, they can say what she can't do, but look at it, it's in writing. It's black and white. And I can help these children. And I mean, I've done it. I'm not talking about things that I want to do, things that I aspire to do. The areas where we are weak, I have helped children to grow. And that's what I want to bring to Marshall County.
It's, like you said, you got a proven track record based upon your brochures and your curriculum here. We're getting ready to pretty much close, Mrs. Steward, and there's some last words, about 3-4 minutes, that you can tell more about what you're trying to do, and you have expounded and spoke very eloquently about these subject matters. One question, I guess.
Okay.
I know there's been a lot of obstacles as you campaign, but has there been any joys, you know, interacting with people, anything that lifted your spirit and made it feel like it's all worth it?
I mean, I'm really glad that you asked me that, and I wasn't even thinking about to end on that note, but I was at a rally Thursday night, and after I finished speaking, you know, we got ready to leave, and a gentleman was standing at the door, and they had the music playing, so, you know, he had to kind of yell to talk to me, and he just, you know, looked at me in my eyes. He said, I heard you. I heard what you were saying. I felt your passion. I believe that you're going to do a good job. And that's what I want people to understand, that my heart is in this for these children. And if I have the opportunity, you know, the children, I want them to feel good about themselves. I want them to feel like that they've been prepared. I want them to feel like that they can run up against anything in life and succeed because they have the necessary tools to do that. And I just want Marshall County to take a look at the conditions of the school system, the way that things are, the good and the bad. And if you want things to remain the same, don't vote for me. But if you want to change for improvement, if you want to see growth, if you want to see economic expansion, if you want to see our children soar on August 2nd, vote for me, Marketta Liggins Steward, candidate for Superintendent of Education for Marshall County Schools.